Hello. Back with another video, another round of messages and lessons and just growth and evolution, and just processing through and having the ability to sit down and share and just communicate where the Lord has been taking me, where my heart is at, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, etc. And this, I can honestly say, this past the month of, going from August, going through and moving now in through to, well in through till September. This has been an interesting time for sure. A lot has been going on, cosmically in the world. A lot has been going on. And that shift, has been real. There's a lot of things that have been falling off, a lot of things that have been coming into play, a lot of things that are being revealed, a lot of things that are just kind of just being settled, and which is appreciated, definitely appreciated. It's not always the easiest to go through that settling process, but it's definitely appreciated nonetheless. But like I said, a few of the lessons that the Lord has definitely deposited and dropped onto my spirit at this time, as I'm embarking on becoming this man that I am, growing into the skin that I'm in. Not really going by the old nicknames or the pseudo characters or whatnot, but who is Jonathan Lee Levy. And so as I'm growing into this skin that I'm in and figuring out this destiny and this purpose-filled life, one of the things that really is just kind of at the forefront of it all is that you can't be great without facing your fears. And that's just what it is. Like, it's not going to come up to you and meet you. You have to conquer your fears, whatever your fears are, whatever your insecurities are. I have to conquer those things in order to move forward and attain all that this life has to offer, whether that be speaking and communicating what's internal and putting it out in an external format, whether that be something like heights, literally and figuratively. It's like there's going to be times where those heights have certain expectations and certain awarenesses that come along with it, and those fears or insecurities are things that have to be conquered and have to be addressed and met head on. And because if it's not, like I said, you can't be great. Great doesn't live in mediocrity. Great doesn't live in the comfort zones. Great doesn't live in the less than. Great lives in always the greater, never the lesser. So that there's no great without conquering fears. And in conquering those fears, sometimes part of that is doing things that hurts. Those fears aren't always, like I said, sometimes it's things like heights or putting yourself out, what's internally, externally. But sometimes it's confronting toxic energies or toxic relationships, figuring out what's for you, what's not for you, and in order to move forward, in order to continue to be great, sometimes we have to do what hurts in order to move forward, in order to heal, in order to grow. Dealing with family, dealing with friends, everybody comes into your life for a reason. It's either for a season or for a lifetime. Those reasons, those motives aren't always clear in the beginning. And sometimes those relational ties that we feel will be around for a lifetime are in fact for a season, and those can be some of the more complicated fears of conquering and overcoming, is saying like, this person has been in my life for XYZ amount of time, and then now I have to come to the reality that their energy doesn't serve my greater good. And because their energy doesn't serve my greater good, I mean, it sounds selfish, but it's not selfish in that negative context as far as preserving your energy and doing what's necessary in order for you to continue to grow and evolve. It's like it's like the caterpillar. It starts off, going along, crawling along in one form, and then it goes through this process of eating and storage, and it wraps itself in a cocoon, and then prayerfully, it comes out on the other side, that butterfly. But there are some people who never make it, let alone out of the cocoon, never make it to the cocoon. Some are just content, just going along at their own pace, going along on their belly. And you got to decide if you're a caterpillar or a butterfly. And if you're gonna be that butterfly, then you're not crawling around on your stomach no more, and you got to recognize that there's something greater, and you want that greater. So you go through this process of transformation. And like I said, it's conquering the fears, and it's meeting those realities head on, and it's not the easiest. And in the process of doing that, I know for me personally, one of my prayers was, Lord, please don't let my heart turn cold. Like, please don't let me just become like callous in this process of dealing with life and dealing with people and seeing how things are going on and transpiring. Please don't let me lose my light. Please don't let me become so hard and callous that I'm just too sharp. I recognize that there does have to be a hardening process that has to occur. I do recognize there has to be a refining process that has to occur. I do recognize there has to be the sharpening that has to occur, and I'm all for that. There's this old, I want to say it's Native American tale of two wolves that exist between us, one that feeds off love and one that feeds off hate. And the one that is largest is the one that we feed. And like I said, as I'm going through this life and we go through our bumps and our bruises and our trials and our tribulations, and like I'm saying, I'm praying, Lord, please don't let my heart turn cold. That wolf that feeds off of hate, it's very easy to keep feeding it if you allow it. And it takes a real concerted effort to say, no, I'm going to feed this wolf that feeds off of love. And despite and in spite of everything else that's going on and everything else that's happening around me, I choose to be the greater, never the lesser. And that's not always the easiest. It definitely isn't always the easiest, especially like I said, when you're dealing with these relational ties and you grow up with people and it's like, okay, yes, we have this thing in common, this blood thing in common, but who are you as a person? What is your energy? What is your character? And how is where you're at presently in your life, how is that impacting me and where I'm at in my life? Is it impacting me for the greater, or is it impacting me for the lesser? And you got to sort those things out. And if you want to be great, you just got to deal with those realities and conquer those fears and learn to grow into the skin that you're in. And that's part of this, just having resolve. It's like, it's not the being jaded. It's not being, apathetic. It's not saying that I don't care or anything like that. It's saying, okay, I get it. All right. That's what it is, then that's what it is. I understand that. And I have to understand what's for me and what's not for me. And if it's not for me, then that's fine. You know what I mean? Because everything in this life is not for you, and you are not for everybody and not for everything. And I think sometimes we get too caught up with this false sense of unity where we feel like every piece sticks together. Like even on a puzzle board, it's like every piece is a part of the larger puzzle, but every piece doesn't fit next to every other piece. There's certain grooves that are meant to be aligned with other pieces. You can't force it. It's just like they say, trying to force a square peg into a round hole. No. And that's part of this resolve that I've learned has to be adapted into this life, is reading situations for what they are, understanding them for what they are, and allowing them to be, what they are. Regardless of how the situation came into effect, regardless of who's involved with the situation, regardless of whatever was invested. It's not always in your best interest to keep investing if it's a losing situation. It's like sometimes you just got to cut bait and have that resolve and understand what it is. And in that resolve, it's maintaining maintaining grace in the face of adversity. It's weathering the storm, and yes, there's all these different emotions that may be flowing around and swirling around on the inside, but reality is you still have to keep going. You still have to keep moving through life. You still have to keep traversing. Life isn't stopping, and you can't allow what's going on internally to affect your external growth and progress. It's because there's always going to be something going on. And we have to learn how to turn those walls into speed bumps in order to continue to just keep moving. It's like I may not be moving at the fastest pace always, but I always want to make sure that I'm moving forward and that I'm always continuing to grow. It's like I was listening to an interview that Jay-Z and Warren Buffett did some years ago for Forbes, and Jay-Z was asking him what's one of your pieces of advice, and Warren Buffett was saying, it's not so much the big gains that does it so much as it's those steady, consistent matriculations and making sure that your losses don't outweigh your gains. And that was very, very key and very telling, because it's that slow and steady wins the race. It's the tortoise and the hare. It's